Assalamu alaikum. This is part 2 of lesson 8, and I want to start with perhaps what shocked you on the previous part when Ibrahim disavowed his people. And I thought I should be more explicit because the Sheikh had not pointed out the reference. So I want to point out the reference. It's Surat al-Mumtahana, and it's verse 4. So the verse means exactly what it says, that Ibrahim disavowed everything and everyone until they submitted to the one and only Allah. So this is the pure Tawheed that Ibrahim came with, that is now being distorted and acting as though it's okay for the C and J's to believe what they believe, and they will be Millet Ibrahim. So you see now, my focus is to clarify, and not that I'm some great sheikha who's memorized the entire Quran. However, because I never believed in taslis in my whole life since I could understand what words were, it's something special that I know, and I will never stop. And it's not as though I can do this in America and say I have nothing to do with you because you worship idols. No, because here the distinction isn't clear as it was for Ibrahim with the stone statues. And the opposition has been at it for so long to muddy the waters that it's going to take time in dealing with American people for them to understand what is the meaning of Taghut, idols. Oh, wait, didn't we name a TV show American Idol? And wasn't there all oh, I can't even say it, it's so disturbing to me. Wasn't that all about music and who could sing the best? And then they included some dancing and some magicians and other things, but if you know what I mean, I'm getting at what is an idol. An idol is anything that takes you away from what you truly ought to worship, and that would be the Almighty Allah alone, la sharika lahu, no partners in any way. No association. It's called shirk, and it's the only sin that Allah will never forgive. So, with that being said, as a preface to part 2 of lesson 8, which I told you I was going to read from the transcript, but I just felt I had to clarify this thing about disavowing your people because it's quite a big deal. So now, why does that, can't stop myself, why does that impact on how we are right now? They're telling us we have to assimilate. It's not just the clothes, it's our unconscionable behavior of not being like them. So now that puts us in sort of a mirror ball. Remember Dancing with the Stars? Which I used to watch faithfully before I was Muslim. You know, the Orthodox Jews who march for Palestine in New York and elsewhere, they never accepted assimilation, which is why Allah has allowed them to not only exist, but to flourish after a fashion with all of their yeshiva schools. I just discovered, in reading some older books, they call it yeshiva now, and they put the V in there. There's no V. It's yeshiva. Now, that's interesting for me, because the V is a sign of Roman conquest. It's one of their holy letters. You do know, I hope, that Venezuela, Simón Bolívar, El Salvador, letters were changed because these indigenous, what we call Latin Americans, but they won't accept that. They just call it America. There was no V letter. Now, all of this might be off topic for you, but it's certainly not for me, because those Orthodox Jays, shall we call them? Let's just call them the Orthodox from the tribe of Israel. Can we lump them into the package of disbelievers? They're Muwahidun. They believe that Allah is one and has no son. They believe in all prophets, except Muhammad. Now, this is a sticky wicket, isn't it, for someone like me? Because the whole thing about prophecy was never explained to us as Catholics, ever. It was not a big deal. The only prophets they really even cared about, Noah, yes, they did stress Noah. And sometimes they would stress Ayub, Job, the one who was tortured and tormented with sickness in his body and his family, etc. Yes, we learned about those a bit. And of course, we can't say Prophet Musa because, we can't say Prophet Isa because they believe he was the son of God. And we would never say Prophet Muhammad. So because I grew up with such extreme limitations according to the word prophecy, I told you the Catholics don't delve into prophecy. And then I discovered something unusual, that most of the Jays, they don't either because they feel guilty about it. But the Orthodox Jew, I said it, you know what I mean when I put so many parameters around this word. The Orthodox followers from the tribe of Israel. But you see, when you see them in New York City, pro-Palestine, you have the feeling that they do know what the meaning is of the word Israel. They know. And in order for them to even take half of that definition, they have to go against the nation state, which they don't believe in. And they have to defend Palestinians because I think they fear Allah. That if they don't come forward what they know is truth, they're in big trouble. Maybe they'll lose, the regions, the boroughs of New York that they can walk freely and proudly down the streets, and also their religious schools. I'm supposed to be doing Sheikh Jamil Ghazi, aren't I? But it's Friday. And I know and I believe it's a special day. And I'm going to continue on with Sheikh Jamil Ghazi, but I couldn't resist what's become to me almost a jihad. Because the jihad means exert yourself. Doesn't have to be in a war with weapons. But I once asked Sheikh Fauzi, and he's coming up next on the roster, what it was supposed to be to follow the Sunnah. Because for years I didn't understand what the distinction was. For me, it was all the focus on the madahib, the four schools of thought of fiqh. And really, honestly, if you don't have someone who really will speak to you truthfully, like Sheikh Fauzi, you won't ever get it. It's just too complicated. So because Sheikh Fauzi followed the salaf, and he said it's Quran and Sunnah, and I said, but what do I do? How am I supposed to really? But Sheikh Fauzi wouldn't get into depth and details because he didn't have time to sit like this. It's like, learn Arabic, read the books. You'll find out, which I did, because I'm sure he made strong dua for me. But this was in the early days. And I said to him, I really don't know what to do. And he said, just follow these rules. If you want to be on the straight path and you want to succeed, This is what you have to do. Number one, you have to do your niyyah. Ikhlas and niyyah. It means make sure of your intention. Purify your intention. And then, number two, closely follow the sunnah. And that means you have to know what it is and don't get deterred with all these different fiqh issues and all of these different madahibs who have hundreds of thousands of differences in opinion. I'm sorry if you want the fact. They'll say the ijma', oh, just pick one. They're all on the same page. Why even bother doing that? Why don't just follow Qala Allah wa Qala Rasul, which in the end is what I do and did. And number three, after you fix your niyyah and you follow what you believe to be correct of the textual evidence, the last thing he said was, and exert yourself to jahid hatta لغاية الإرهاق. I have to pronounce it properly. Exert yourself till exhaustion. Words of Sheikh Fawzi Said. One, make sure your intention is pure. Two, follow the salaf. And we say those who came before, meaning of after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba and the Tabi'een. They're better to follow than the other humans that came after. I'm not saying all these scholars and shuyukh were bad or wrong. No way. But for someone like me who has to be limited, not only am I older, but I'm so much of a beginner in this. And then Sheikh said, exert yourself till exhaustion. Well, I think I've done the first two, but I'm still working on that last part. Irhaq. Am I really, when I turn out that light at night, exhausted? No. So you see, I'm still not there yet, am I? So that's enough of the digression. We're going back to Sheikh Jamil Ghazi, where I will be reading to you from what they call this transcript. You see, I have another phone. So I have his lesson, which you can find. And those of you who know Arabic ought to find it. I wish you would find it. And I wish you would follow along if you know Arabic. Till then, you have to content yourself with me. So I'm going to try and pause this and see if I can come back.